Hello. Uh, Welcome back. And Christina has joined me again in a few hours to um, follow on the transits. So we are thinking of talking about Mercury's transit. Mercury in Gemini seems like a very first of all, thank you, Christina, for joining. And
Yeah, thank you.
Mercury seems like a planet that not many people focus on because it's quick moving. But for me, Mercury and Venus really kind of set the stage, and they kind of narrate different stories that kind of unfold
hmm
within the larger cycles that are usually represented by Saturn, Jupiter, or the nodes of the moon. So without paying attention to Mercury, I think we'll miss the connecting dots that fulfill the promise over the course
hmm
of the year, whatever it is. So I always feel like we pay less attention to Mercury and more importantly Venus. At least if Mercury is retrograde, astrologers talk about Mercury is retrograde, but poor Venus doesn't get any attention unless uh, she goes retrograde. um,
Yeah, short end of the stick. Yeah.
yeah, so I was kind of curious about Mercury's place. Mercury is currently in Ardra, and before I say something, I'll hear from you. Like, what is your idea about Mercury
hmm
in Gemini in general?
mm Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that about it. Mercury and Venus contextualizing the greater picture. That's definitely the vibe that I got when I started zooming in to where Mercury has been and where it's going. So it's done with Mrigashira.
Yeah,
It's in Ardra. It feels like we've kind of been in this period of seeking something out, seeking out a truth, and coming to this pivot point. For a
yeah,
lot of people that I know, we're at these like points where something is ending and something's beginning, and that paradigm um, needs to change. And what comes next, I think, is the big piece in Punarvasu because it's going to be there for 8 weeks with the
yeah,
shadow period,
exactly.
all in all in Punarvasu. So it really to me speaks to this image of okay, you saw something out, you decided to do it, you decided to make a change or a pivot point, and now you're gonna have to put the work in and you're gonna have to go through those cycles of the fine tuning. There's more I want to say to it, but what do you
Sure.
think about that?
I think I agreed with you. In a way, for me, the stage was set with Mercury and Mrigashira, like you mentioned. But the Taurus side of Mrigashira is so different, and the Gemini side of Mrigashira is so different because Mrigashira with Taurus is more of kind of trying to find a fixity in many ways, but still kind of it's almost like standing in one place, but still kind of ready to look around and see what's going on. But the moment
hmm
Mercury moves into Gemini, the this playing around from one place is over. It's like let's watch as we move is the thing,
hmm
because I think the one of the good things about Mercury is having access to information and also having the ability to process those information during that period of time. So we have been searching for the truth, like you said, be it truth or any form of search that we engage as part of our journey. I think Mrigashira itself is the beginning of that search in many ways, and then
hmm
whatever we see, whatever we find as the deer kind of goes in this quest, and then eventually with Mercury and Ardra, this once we find that there is this storm that's bursting out, like, and I don't like to kind of talk about really life-changing moments with Mercury and Gemini, but it's about little information that kind of assists or profoundly changes the
hmm
course of our life during the um, year or the during the perfection or whatever sub period you're dealing with. So either way, Mercury has a story to narrate, and we are kind of influenced by some kind of information that we see, be it any form of truth. Uh, Going back to truth, like Vak is the Rigvedic principle uh,
Hmm.
of Mercury's archetypes that we are talking about, and principle of speech, and the weight that each word that carries when we say at this point is really interesting, and it's really important as well. So I think in a way, Ardra is playing a role where a lot of events happen, but not really major events. They're all stepping stones of something big that might unfold as the year passes.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we know that Mercury is also going retrograde, which is another interesting phenomenon, especially in Punarvasu. Mercury in retrograde motion itself is kind of presenting a lot of scope for review, reassessment, etc., and etc. And Punarvasu is again the star of repeating patterns. I don't know how many times we have to repeat the same
Hmm.
things, but hopefully everything leads to some kind of finesse.
Mm, well said. Yeah. Yeah. I liked how you said, like building sorry, how you said it, building the stones or the step by step.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Vok is
Yes.
the bridge between thought and manifestation. And that's what I was really honing and keying into with this momentum building.
Right.
Um, I ended up kind of going down a rabbit hole and started looking at the fixed stars a little bit with their connections
Yeah.
to some of this,
Mm.
which I think really ties in. I won't go too far down, but with Ardra being associated with Betelgeuse, um, there's like this tremendous strength and really like unbridled success that can come without, not necessarily without trying, but having that momentum. Somebody who has that prominently in their chart, I believe, is LeBron James. And obviously, he's worked really hard. It's not like someone just handed it to him, but
Right.
it's dependent on how you use that strength.
Mm.
And if you're willing to build that bridge and to step into it, there's just a lot of potential here.
Yeah.
But then when you get to Punarvasu, you have Castor and Pollux. This is
Yes.
where I wanted to get your thoughts on this because so they're the twins,
Yeah.
and Castor is the human side who is associated with Mercury, and he was skilled with taming horses and that unbridled side. And
Right.
then Pollux was actually associated with Mars and was the immortal one, and he was really, competitive and kind of like the evil twin side. So it almost has this image of
Duality.
like, an angel on one and the,
Yeah.
a demon on the other shoulder, and you're having to like blend those opposites or build a bridge in order to overcome those repeating patterns in that search for like your new truth or your new reality and breaking out of those patterns.
Interesting. It sounds similar to Punarvasu in many ways, because I don't know much information about Castor and Pollux. I know that it's a fixed star that has its proximity to Punarvasu lunar mansion. Uh, but
Mm,
I think we're dealing with paradoxical elements here. Like as you said, like there is one good side, and also there is one let's call it as evil, and not really kind of be afraid about it. So,
sure.
but I think eventually, kind of trying to find that midway to see what really is helpful in which path is really important, and both good and evil have perspectives. So it's difficult to
Mm,
qualify or judge anything based on one single circumstance, because like again, going back to the Hobbit, Beorn, the skin changer who becomes this bear, and on the other
yeah.
side he's this really good man who can uh, be a savior, or who can be reasoned with. So yeah, he protects the dwarves even though he doesn't really like them. But on the
Like
other
them,
hand, he can
yeah.
also kind of eat up the dwarfs. So that's the bear side of it. So what really
Mm-hmm.
comes out at
Mm-hmm.
which situation, and how we awaken those situations by what we do in our own circumstances is probably one of the keys. So how do we utilize the opportunities that we get in terms of repeating patterns? So whether we kind
Mm-hmm.
of get
Mm-hmm.
annoyed, leave it astray, and just move on to something else, or we just kind of persist and
Mm.
stay the
Mm-hmm.
course. I think that's the difference, because I think as long as Mercury's placement in Gemini is quite good, but Mercury's placement in Cancer in Punarvasu can slightly lean towards coziness from uh, a
Mm-hmm.
kind of an intellectual perspective, intellectual comfort, whatever you may want to call it, or staying with
Mm.
a comfort zone or something like that from an intellectual perspective, not
Mm.
necessarily psychological perspective. Because psychologically, I think Mercury is trying to kind of constantly go back to the earlier memories and rationalize our thought process in relation to those memories, and keeps processing it unendingly. So in Cancer, so
Mm.
especially I find Mercury in Cancer is a little challenging in that way, because the scope for kind of leaving it and moving on, whatever the difficult memory may be, is slightly less, because Mercury keeps on rationalizing our own position with those memories, and it keeps coming back in some way. So although there was a there was a lot of water retrogrades even the last year, with back and
Mm-hmm.
forth with Mercury, and then back and forth with Scorpio, Libra, and yeah, but the it was fully in Pisces. I think Mercury is retrograde, so it's so different when Mercury goes retrograde in water signs. We have finished one cycle and we are still kind of moving on to slowly, you know, going on. But still, even if it's not retrograde, I think it's a little challenging when Mercury is in Punarvasu. But in that Cancer, the small 3 degrees and 20-minute Cancer area is slightly challenging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That just gave me this image of storytelling, which Ardra is also about, and like kind of like embellishment in telling these really, and sometimes we do that to ourselves.
Exaggeration.
We tell ourselves these stories of like, oh, it was just this, or oh, this isn't a big deal, or this was a disaster, or whatever. And then once you actually have to put the rubber to the road and in Punarvasu and change those stories,
Yeah,
that's where the power of Mercury comes in and
yeah,
builds the bridge between the thought and the manifestation.
brilliant. So I think we are talking about the kind of Mercury's journey between thoughts and converting those thoughts into words, or
Hmm.
whatever it is.
Hmm.
So it's quite interesting. I think Mercury's transit cannot be separated from Saturn's uh, placement in
Hmm.
Pisces. So I think there's
Putting
a
in the
lot
work.
of circumspect attitude, calculative communication, and the old man plays a role. Like it's difficult for anyone to move away from
Hmm.
Gandalf.
Man, you're running ahead. I gotta catch up with these Lord of the Rings references. Um, yes. And for anybody who didn't see the previous video with Danny on Saturn and Ravati, she made a good point there, bringing those two together. And in talking about, Saturn being that protector of the journey, there is definitely some cold, hard honesty sometimes that needs to happen of,
Yeah,
this is what got me here.
yeah,
Am I happy with the result or am I not?
mm,
And if not, then you know what to do to change it.
yeah.
And that changing that thought or those actions is what will bring you the different manifestation.
Sure. I think, yeah, Saturn has its eyes cast on Mercury. There's no escape. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Sauron's eyes are it's fixed on Rivendell, as Lord Elrond says. It's fixed, no escape, because Mercury
It's
is again
fixed.
coming back. The retrograde motion again puts the square element back, which is quite interesting for me. Like, because there is so much of calculation that is going on, so much of processing of information. I think it's a really welcome transit in many ways for those people who are who
Mhm.
really want to kind of take the game very slow at this point. So on the
Mm.
one hand, there are people who constantly want to, embody Mars, but there are other people who want to enjoy the slowness of how things are unfolding. And I think Saturn Mercury square, in many ways, is good for those people who want to play the waiting game.
Mm.
So.
I like that. Mm.
uh,
What did we say? Transmuting time into wisdom
yeah,
is, Saturn and Ravati. That
Saturn Revati,
and
right?
that's exactly what. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I think that that pairing, that square is doing. Is it's really calling forth the way you think, the way you speak, the way you yeah, just the way you think about what it is that you want, changing it and then transmuting it into the wisdom you need to make something anew or make something different. So yeah, I think it can be a really productive transit despite the square.
Right. Productive transit, I think, is a good place to end.
Mm, yeah,
uh,
protective. Yeah,
yeah,
take that with you. Protective.
yeah. So I think that's it for
Yeah.
this.
No,
It's a good place
there's
to
going to
end.
be
It's
more
a
to say,
product.
I'm sure, at once. Yep.
Yeah, but I
Yep.
think we'll have a follow-up video at some point on what Mercury has done. Uh, I think we have kind of flushed
Hmm.
out a lot of things in the last few minutes, but reflective
Hmm.
stance will also be quite interesting to see how things have shaped up. But
Absolutely.
but
Yeah. Well, 8 weeks
yeah,
to fine tune this cycle.
yeah, sure, yeah. But thanks, Christina.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in another video.